Can it still be saved? That's the topic of this video. You see a phalaenopsis here. This one isn't doing so well anymore. It actually looks almost like a case for the compost bin. But can it still be saved? And if so, how do you go about it? I'll show you that in this video. And that's why we're going to take a detailed look at the orchid now and see what we need to do. First of all, let's take a look at the plant itself. If we looking at the vessel, will we find out that we can still see plenty of really healthy roots everywhere. So it's not necessarily a root problem. So it's not the substrate problem, or that's not the cause. But if we take a look at the plant here, specifically the shoot, we can see it completely. Dry leaves, you can remove those. If we look even closer now, we see a white hairy spot here. That means these are mealybugs. We can also see mealybugs in the leaf heart. So basically, that should already be one of the main causes. Namely, the plant has a mealybug problem that has more or less gone unnoticed. I intended to ignore that we have such a sample plant. And now let's see what we can do. The first steps have already been taken. That means I removed the old leaves. Well, that wasn't really the problem, that it was so difficult. But you can just remove them. And now let's take a look at the next steps. It's very important for an orchid, of course, the flower spike, which doesn't do anything for the plant anymore. So this can definitely be removed, and it makes everything easier. You see, the flower spike is dried up anyway. You can remove that. If we look more closely now, we see there's still an old flower spike here, and that can definitely go. And that's already the most important thing you can do. We can also see that you can remove the old leaves here. They are dried up, and it's easiest to split them right here at the front. And then you can just pull them off to the left and right. It also has the advantage that when you do a plant protection treatment, but I'll get to that topic in just a moment, then you'll definitely reach those pests as well. The advantage of Colomi is, since it is a mineral substrate, pests don't like this substrate. They prefer moist organic substrates. Colomi is dry on the surface. The moisture is only retained inside. This means that there are definitely no pests present here, provided that there is no moss or algae formed. There could definitely be pests present there, but that's not the case here. Now that we've removed the old parts, we notice, okay, we can't really get in there anymore. And that's why you have to take advantage of the characteristics of Colombia that exist, and the trade in itself also speaks completely for Colombia. Now we come to a great feature of Colombia that doesn't work at all with the normal orchid substrate pine bark. You can see here, you can actually pull the plant out without any problems. And then it is almost completely separated from the Colombia, and you can continue working with the plant. This means I can now simply remove the damaged parts, the dried out parts. And then the plant itself is completely back to normal, ready for a replanting, and we can easily do that with it. The existing Colomi, which we've already been using for the past few weeks, just reinsert it normally, as if it were fresh Colomi. Before that, you should definitely remove all the old brown roots. And for that, it's best to use a pair of pointed scissors. Of course, you can also use pruning shears or regular household scissors. Everything works. A pair of pointed scissors makes life easier. And then you can be very precise here. Remove the roots. Make sure to remove most of it. This also means that this old part of the... You can get rid of the trunks. You can also immediately see that it's brown here anyway. That means nothing would have come out of here anyway. This root here also feels like it has no function anymore. You can cut it a bit, then you notice, okay, it's still green. That means you can leave them. Everything that is usually broken feels completely hollow because the outer filament has simply died off and inside. This foamy mass, or the foamy tissue, practically disappeared, has been broken down, has decomposed. You can see it here, how hollow it actually is. And here we see this is the fresh root. And basically half the battle is that the plant survives the whole thing. After you have completely checked the plant now, you could still go ahead and say, okay, let's remove these parts here. And then you can see here are some white spots again. That means right here is where all the mealybugs and scale insects are hiding again, which really make life difficult for the orchid. And that's why it would actually be worth considering that you say, okay, the lower part where the bugs could be, you would cut off completely. But that's still a part with healthy, active roots. And this, I would say I wouldn't cut that off. Because basically the plant is so practically ready so that it can be repotted again. If the plant had significantly fewer roots, but as you can see, it has enough roots, I would go ahead and trim the leaf again so that evaporation is definitely reduced. You can see the plant hasn't been watered for quite some time. The leaves, or rather the leaf, there's only one left, are already quite shriveled. But if we now look into the heart, we see that a new heart leaf is already forming here, which means that this orchid is in and of itself really still, doing well and can be easily saved. And that's why you just go ahead and remove the bugs that you can reach here. You do nothing else but practically. Here I've freed the old glass from the Colomi. Then you add some water. You just rinse it out roughly. So it doesn't have to be absolutely clinically clean unless it's moss or algae are present. And then you do nothing different than with the usual planting in a glass container. You make sure that the roots reach all the way down to the bottom of the glass. Yes, at least 1 or 2 roots should be all the way down. You can see there's a green root tip here, and it should reach all the way down to the bottom. And then you go ahead and fill the original colony back into the glass. So basically that was it. The plant has been replanted in the Colomi. Now you notice there's a small gap here. Normally, you don't need to top up anything in Colomi. In this case, however, the gap is relatively large. That is why you can rest easy to proceed. That you carefully fill the gap a little. Now, you just take a wooden stick, what you have ready, or a picking stick. And then you can just pour the remaining Colomi in. And then you basically repotted the plant back into the original Colomi. Has removed the rotten parts or the dried out parts. And now, of course, you can do one thing. If you now ask, what about the mealybugs? In the meantime, I have to say, I try to use as little plant protection products as possible. If I use something, then it's neem oil. I've already heard from some that neem oil doesn't work so well for them. In this bottle, there's now just a tiny little bit left. That's why I'm just doing this now. So, because you shouldn't treat orchids in Colombia with too much water, that I'm just fill in water. There were just 2 or 3 drops left in this little bottle. This also has the advantage that the bottle is rinsed out and you can optimally dispose of it in the yellow bin. So, and now you've shaken it up. Neem oil is relatively harmless. It does have a systemic effect, but now you can just apply it here over the plant. This is now a bit of the unorthodox version, but it also has the advantage that it has a systemic effect. It is also absorbed through the roots, and the plant has enough roots. That means we're going to wet everything here now. You don't have to do it that way. You can also do it with a spray bottle. Neem oil is also a kind of homeopathic remedy. And now we see that it has spread everywhere. Then there's a milky suspension. And then the plant is provided with water. You can see it down here now. And of course, she will probably get rid of the aphids for now. If aphids should appear again, you can repeat this after 2 weeks. Because usually the eggs that are now here, among the old ones, components, if they haven't been caught well, or if they were laid there, you can also pour some more on, and then that's it. You could actually keep the suspension for a week or 2 and then apply it. And then that's basically it. Since the Columbia remains structurally stable for many years and provides the plant with all the necessary nutrients that the orchid needs for 5 to 8 years, you can naturally use this repeatedly during that time. If you have a problem with algae or moss in the container, I'll show you that in the next video. You've now seen how I planted the plant. It's obviously a bit wet now. Sure, through this solution with the taking what we have applied here. The plant will soak that up for now. You've seen, like, it was dried out. The leaf was... That doesn't matter. The plant will take that up in the next few days. And then we will take a look how it will develop in the coming weeks and months. So that means the next update will probably be in a week or 2. So that means subscribe to the channel, give a thumbs up. Until the next video, and goodbye.